Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today for another episode of TABC Talks. I'm Thomas Graham, the Director of Tax and Marketing Practices for the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission. Today, we'll be covering the 2019 legislative changes impacting manufacturers. As part of the presentation today, we'll be covering agents, non-residents of brewers and manufacturers, retailer sampling by a distiller or non-resident seller, importation of malt beverages for manufacturing purposes, the elimination of industrial permits and local industrial alcohol manufacturers permits, beer to go, and beer warehouse registration. HB 3222 made it easier to process label applications and tax reports for imported malt beverage products. Previously, the agency had to work with foreign entities on label and tax report corrections. This lets us work with U.S. entities who hold contracts with foreign entities to import and sell their products into Texas. The agent has to be the primary American source of supply. In other words, the brewer who has an agent must be the closest person to the brewer who's the producer in the channel of commerce from whom the product can be secured by a Texas wholesaler or distributor. In order to act as an agent, the brewer must provide documentation authorizing them to represent the non-resident brewer. In practice, the brewer acting as an agent may file all paperwork normally filed by the foreign non-resident brewer. This includes label approval, excise taxes, and licensing applications. Under previous law, only a wholesaler was authorized to provide spirit samples to retailers. HB 1997 now authorizes a distiller or a non-resident seller to conduct tastings and provide samples of distilled spirits to retailers. The retailers cannot have previously purchased the samples being provided by the distiller or the non-resident seller. Distilled spirits may be transported by the distiller to the retailer for the sampling and tasting event. The distillery in Texas may also utilize product from their own inventory. A non-resident seller must obtain the product from a Texas wholesaler or a Texas package store. They cannot obtain the product directly from their non-resident seller located outside of the state or from the distillery located outside of the state. Remaining portions of the samples may be left with the retailer, but it's recommended that they be removed from the premises by close of business. The bill did not authorize the distiller or non-resident seller to negotiate price with the retailer. Only speak about the product and its characteristics. This slide covers the changes in the Alcoholic Beverage Code. HB 3768 is known as bracketed legislation and only applies to the State Fair of Texas. Permitted in-state manufacturers that are members of the Texas Department of Agriculture's Go Texan program may provide free samples of their products at the State Fair without having to obtain additional permits from TABC. The bill does not authorize them to sell their products as part of the sampling. SB 928 authorizes in-state brewers to purchase and import bulk malt beverages for manufacturing purposes. Purchased products may be used for mixing, blending, and other manufacturing purposes. Product imported for manufacturing purposes does not meet the definition of first sale for purposes of excise taxes. SB 1210 is affixed to allow for the removal, destruction, and disposal of products damaged during a natural disaster. Upper tier members during Hurricane Harvey and other disasters had a difficult time getting some retailers to get uninsured products damaged by floodwaters off the shelves. This was a public health issue. This bill gives upper tier members the authority to pull and replace damaged products as a matter of public health. Through the sunset process, 14 licenses and permits were eliminated. As part of this process, the I and the LI were eliminated. While the need to obtain a permit was eliminated, the activities remained authorized under Chapter 38 of the Code. Additionally, the excise tax form and reporting requirements were limited for the industrial permit and the industrial alcohol manufacturer's permit. These permittees no longer have to obtain permits from TABC or file monthly tax reports. As part of the Sunset Bill, certain brewers were authorized to sell their products to go. The bill limited the amount of product that may be sold to one case per consumer per day. To-go sales must be reported in the same manner as on-premise sales on the monthly excise tax report. In addition to beer to go, the bill eliminated the label registration requirements for products sold directly to consumers, whether they be for on-premise or off-premise consumption. Brewers must continue to obtain label approval for products sold to distributors or retailers. For products sold on-premise, brewers must post in a conspicuous place the ABV of those products. For products sold to go, the brewer must write on the container the product name and the ABV. As part of the sunset changes, beer manufacturers and distributors will need to register their storage facilities with TABC. TABC created a registration form which can be found on our website or by contacting the licensing division. Brewers must continue to obtain permits for the warehousing of ale products until the beer-ale consolidation, which will take place in 2021. All the changes we discussed had an effective date of 9/1/19. Some of the changes were a result of sunset, while others were standard legislative changes. Thank you all for participating today. This thing went pretty fast. Is there any questions that we might be able to answer for you? Well, since we don't have any changes, thanks again for participating today, and I hope you tune in for the next episode of TABC Talks. Have a good one.